roll call and that committee member county board attendance, that's been taken. Everybody's here, and one additional chair, county chair is Dave Froelich in attendance. What's your pleasure on the minutes of June 3rd? Motion by Nell. Second by Paul. Any other discussion on it? Otherwise, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Determine the next meeting date and time, August 5th, 8 a.m. That work? Sure. First Friday in August, keep it on schedule. All right. Next we'll go to public comment. Anybody for public comment?
I'm good.
No?
Thank you.
Family court services.
That would be me. I appreciate how fast we're going, because I'm newer to the department, but my name is Jen Smith. I know, right? Exactly. Don't worry about that. I have a lot of energy right now. I had my cup of coffee. So, my name is Jen Smith. I am Director of Family Court Services for Dodge County, and I am here for a resolution to increase my customer care specialist position from a 0.5 to a 0.7. So basically 8 hours a week, 16 hours every 2 weeks. I don't know the process, so just to let you know, I appreciate whoever put the new girl first. But basically with the resolution also came the job description for the customer care specialist. And I'm focusing on number 2, under essential functions, number 5, 9, and 10, specifically because our customer care specialist right now is really, all of her time is consumed a lot by our co-parenting class, organizing that, making sure that everybody is on board with coming, because it's a court order. It's usually court ordered to attend the co-parenting class, and so that consumes a lot of her time. In the meantime, us as counselors are closing our cases, and some of our cases, really, what we do is called a custody study, and we have to dive deep in the families' lives to make a recommendation to the court. So we gather a lot of confidential information from families, and so the predecessor, my predecessor, really did a good job of getting us on track for family court services regarding electronic filing. However, we're kind of stagnant right now regarding past files with all that confidential information in it, along with keeping up with what we currently have. Come on in, but don't take my seat. I'm afraid you're at the table.
You get a chair, otherwise I can go going for you.
Okay, no.
So, yeah, I'm saving my seat against the wall. So, my main concern is really getting those files up to date electronically. And most of the courthouse, including district attorney's office and corporate courts, are primarily all electronic. And that's what my goal is for family court services too, is to have all of that confidential information into an electronic system called File Director. So that's my main goal for asking for this resolution. I also think it's really important that when we have a lot of families call us asking for directions on where to go from here. They don't have attorneys. Not everybody hires an attorney, so they ask for directions on where their case is in the family court system and where to proceed forward. It's important to have that direct contact with somebody that right away, because otherwise it goes from Mary's phone, which is our customer care specialist right now, to my phone, to the other counselor's phone, and it kind of bounces all around. Could even bounce to child support and that kind of thing. So it's really important to have somebody present during, especially because we have a lot of clientele that are wage earners, meaning that they work. So they call us during the day when they're on their breaks, at lunch, that kind of thing. So it's important to have somebody there covering the phones. I also think it's really important to increase this position due to, as a counselor and gathering all of that information, the other day on one case alone, I spent 3 hours on doing background checks regarding a family who, they're not always honest with us regarding that information. So I had to do at least 3 hours of sending out open records requests to law enforcement officers. And I just feel like that would be something that an administrative assistant could handle, in taking over those kind of responsibilities. Any questions? I really don't know what kind of information you guys would like to hear or to know about.
That's something you want to put in the budget.
Correct, so it would be increasing to 1.7.
What are you talking?
You know what, I did not gather that as far as,
Come on.
I know, now I've learned. Talk to finance before, yes. So right now, the position is at 0.5, it would be increasing to 0.7. In the resolution itself, and this isn't for this current budget, it's for the, starting in January 1st, 2023. But I will definitely get that information.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, I suppose that's a main question, huh?
Well, that'll be, I mean, to get this for the full board, it'll be,
Okay,
because they'll be like, where's this information?
Okay.
It'll be kind of that.
Any other discussion on it? Anybody wanna make a motion to bring the resolution forward?
Once we get the financials, I think. we'll be-
Yeah, just, without knowing what the
the
impact.
increase in cost would be.
Yeah.
Just to make it, everything all.
Okay.
Otherwise, they'll just get hung up.
Is it something that I could get you that information prior to our full board meeting in July?
Do you want to make a motion to approve the resolution with understanding that you're gonna get that info?
I think we can go that way.
Otherwise it gets a little late.
I'll make a motion to approve once we get the financial.
I've got a motion and a second on this resolution. Any other discussion, otherwise, all in favor?
Pending the information, right?
And with the, yeah, if you could put that notes or something.
Yeah.
And how would we get it? Can you send an email to this?
Would you prefer email or telephone calls or whatever?
Email.
Email, okay.
Sounds good.
Group email and
Yeah,
any
get
further
group
questions,
emails
you just let me know.
Yeah,
Okay,
that'd be good.
All right.
awesome, thank you. Do we sign this now then?
Well,
or do
first we
wait?
should approve it.
Yeah, we gotta
Oh,
approve it
okay,
first.
oh. Second, any second?
All in favor of the motion, resolution, say aye.
Right.
Opposed? I said, so, all right.
Okay, now I will leave this for you.
You guys comfortable with signing that, with just knowing you're gonna get the information?
It's like city information workers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give that to him.
All right, should we do there?
Okay,
Hold it until,
Yeah.
wanna make sure it gets in, time periods to get it in for this month.
absolutely. I'll work on that today and get that out to you verbally today.
Okay, that'd be great. So, we should talk about what you wanna do to get this signed, then maybe just a couple minutes before, well,
Okay.
Dave, we're gonna,
Oh, gotcha.
we're gonna need this signed and then to,
That's a great
I
idea.
just suggested you call finance
I
and
think
get
I'll go
the
right now.
information and
You don't
have it before
mind?
you meet.
before we're done here, that's.
Okay,
that's
sounds like a
perfect,
great
thank you.
idea.
That's what I was gonna suggest too, you should be able to get that number rather quickly, and then you'd be able to get it approved yet today.
Fabulous. I'll
And
go
Jen,
ahead.
Carrie Lagerman is the person up there to talk to about that.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
I'll be back.
Medical examiner's office,
It's me again.
yeah?
So I'm Brooke, I'm the chief deputy. I was here last week, or last month, I should say. So we got a couple things on the agenda. I'm actually gonna start with the Green Lake, and what's kind of going on with Green Lake. So PJ said that he reached out to them last week. And they got back to him and they really didn't have much of an update. He did find out that their county administrator, resigned and is stepping down in December, so that's kind of their county board's biggest priority right now, so, the whole thing with us is kind of on the back burner at the moment. So that's kind of where we are with Green Lake. Any questions about it? And then the other thing we have is a resolution to increase our, fiscal assistant, who is currently at .475 to a .6. So this position was originally created like before PJ was here in 2006, so 20-some years ago. And with that, there's been a huge increase in our caseload, which then increases billing, records requests, just phone calls in general. So that's kind of why we're needing more help. We're asking that it start in December 1st. Our budget allows for this, and there would be no impacts due to the fact that we had 10 days where we didn't have a fiscal assistant, and there was already a planned increase for her in July, so we have some money available. These extra hours would only be about, for this year, would only be an extra $200 for that extra time she's here.
So you went it this year already?
Yep, December 1st is what we're requesting. So going from about a 40% position to a 60% position is about 208 more hours a year. So this would be next year when we get more of a full year. And the total earnings would be a difference of about $18,000, a little over $18,015. She would be eligible for some benefits, but not full benefits.
How much for a full year, you said?
$18,019. And we kind of are asking for it this year just because to help with the end of the year stuff, we think it's all kind of there.
All right.
So it would go from a 16-hour position to like about 24.
You already have this budgeted, or money for that?
For this year,
Yes.
yeah, so we have money from the position being vacant for 10 days, we didn't have one. And then she was supposed to get a July 1st step increase, so that the new person didn't start with that step increase.
And the
So we
money
have
you
the difference in
will
this year's
cover it?
budget. Yep,
Okay.
Yep.
Why, I think I missed, why the increase in hours?
the increase in hours,
Yeah.
because we have an increase in billing, so there's just a lot more billing to do with the increase in caseload. We have a lot more phone calls coming in, a lot more families calling, she's kind of the one that triages everything. A lot more records requests coming in, just more work in general. Ever since the position was created 20 years ago, there's been a significant increase in our caseload. So that's really the majority of it. And she does all of our billing, she does all the records requests, she keeps track of all of our autopsy reports. Anybody that calls and family wants an autopsy report, we get insurance companies that want them, she passes them on to DJ, he approves them, she's able to send them out.
Between last year and this year, you have what you would consider a normal caseload increase or a hefty increase in caseload?
So, over the years, it's gotten more significant. This year, we're already looking at more cases than last year. It's probably about a difference of 20 at this point in the year. But if it keeps increasing, by the end of the year, it gets to be. And cremations keep increasing, and that's another thing that she helps with, is help us doing cremation permit and stuff like that. Cremations are getting very high. It's about 2/3 of our deaths reported to our office are cremations.
Was this decision made on the fact that you were looking at, helping out Green Lake?
No,
Or no?
no. It's just in our case that we need that help.
And that
20 more cases,
That's right now.
that's right now.
Yep, from last
And
year.
last year was 200 and, how many cases?
385, I thought.
Or 385?
Total cases?
Total cases, yes.
Last year, we had more than that last year. Last year, we had 920
Oh,
cases.
900, okay.
Yep,
So,
Oh, that
so
might
right
be-
now, we're at a little more, these numbers were done last week, but we were at 423. And we
So-
had quite a bit this last week.
so we're at 900. You're halfway through the year, if we get 40, you're about a 5% increase. Roughly.
Yeah. And then back from, so 2020 was our busiest year, COVID. We had about 1,000 cases that year, 1,042. And more of a normal year was right around the 800 mark, prior to all the COVID and everything. So we're definitely jumping, we're seeing more drugs, we're seeing more natural deaths at home.
So at one point, or at 475 to 0.6, that figured to be about 18,000, that's
Yep,
benefits.
that's
and-
with, yeah, that's with benefits and everything.
That includes
This
the
is a
benefit.
spreadsheet from, what's that?
Includes the benefit.
Yep, that's everything, that's the total earning and the fringe benefits. So the total earnings would go from 17,721 to 35,740.
Excuse me.
All right, what's your pleasure?
So it's at 17,000 now, and then it'll be 34. 35.
With total earnings and the fringe benefits, yep.
Sure.
Yep, it would go from 16 hours to 24.
You increase 1.75 and double the bottom line.
And then- Say that again,
So
please.
you increase your these hours, you know, to 1.75 and then double that in cost. Obviously, that it's not wages, it's benefits.
Probably some of them, if the person has benefits.
I think part of what we're looking at here
Sure.
is, you said there was already gonna be a step increase.
The person that was in the position that, when she left the first, of June, she was already going to get a step increase. So there was money from that step increase, a little bit, because the new person started lower than that step increase. So there's money from that, and then there's money from the 10 days that she wasn't working
I
for
just-
this year.
I do see what you're saying, Paul, is doubling the
Well, it's just,
bottom line.
it just seems the numbers, you know, it
It seems like a lot for.
seems like a lot of money for that.
For that little
time.
increase, it seems like-
Yeah, I mean, 18 grand for just this tiny, small little increase in time seems
And it is
out of
the
whack
fact that,
somehow.
it is the fact that you're adding, you know, they would be eligible, for some.
Oh, so they're not eligible for, they're not in the benefits now?
Correct.
So
That's-
that's enough said, that's all you,
that's
yeah,
what it is.
I
Yep,
didn't, I apologize.
Yeah.
Shame on me.
So wait,
So
I
she-
didn't catch
Over
any of that.
0.5.
Yeah, shame
yeah,
on
so
me.
she wasn't,
I
she wasn't even considered
didn't click.
part-time.
More coffee.
What about adding a second part-time person to make up the difference? Is that a possibility? So then we're not like adding all the benefits and, I mean, because for the amount of increase we're getting in productivity,
I get what
we're
you're
double
Yeah,
the
yeah,
cost of,
stepping over that benefit line is
I mean, we're like barely, I mean, we're increasing that, which makes sense, like, hey, yeah,
That's
the
the reason
workload's
it's so
gone up
high.
in 20 years,
Yeah.
and then it's like, we're looking at it, it's like, wow, this is double. We're, you know,
Yeah,
if we were doubling the position and we were doubling the expense, that would make more sense, but, I mean, is there another solution that we could look at where maybe,
and I can talk, obviously, Pete is the one that's gonna have all.
I mean, I guess in that, I'll follow up with that, in the fiscal assistant position, is there a pool to draw from that somebody might be interested in a part-time? So you have two
Yeah.
part-time folks instead of,
I mean, so, the position as it is now, it reads kind of funny, I know. That's always when we try to hire someone, this is the second person we've hired in a couple of years. Because we had Carol, who was here forever, and then we had Megan, she was only here for a couple of years. Kind of takes, so it's less than part-time technically. So it is only 16 hours a week, as it is right now.
True. But again, that's why I asked, because I really am
Yeah.
not aware with, the club position itself. But I find that there's a lot of people that have very good skill sets
Yeah,
that are, now that we're losing 10,000 people retiring a day, that'll say, I can retire to, I'm bored. I'll find a 16-hour week gig. And they're professionals, and they're like, I don't know, maybe the ME's office might have something to do with it, well, that's where I wanna work, but, it's not for me, I'm just saying.
right, not for everybody.
But, is there an opportunity there that we, again, you could find somebody who has the skill sets needed, that doesn't need the benefits, doesn't want the benefits, and really just wants to find something to do 2 days a week. I've just found that recently, I've found a lot more of those people in my industry that are willing to say, I'm bored, running around doing this and doing that, I find myself, I thought it was gonna be great, and now I realize I gotta find something to do. And they have skill sets.
So what to do with the resolution? There are a couple options.
You're doing all the talking.
Yeah. How would you say
Oh,
that?
all right, well, great,
Now
thanks.
say it in a resolution.
I mean, I just
Explore the option of.
I just think that we should explore that option. I mean, we have, I understand that you'd like to have something by December 1. That's not gonna, we obviously have to be moved fairly quickly for budgetary purposes next year. But for me, that's just, that seems to make sense. But if the rest of the committee says, no, well, let's move forward.
Well, that makes sense.
So, what would the numbers be if increase by 4 hours a week?
By 4 hours,
Mhm.
so that would be what, 20?
Mhm.
So 50%, they did do 50% on here too, which would be that, I would guess.
Oh, so you wanna keep it under the.
Well, increase some and then.
So 50, with the total earnings and fringe benefits would be 31,000, so it would be a difference of about $4,000 from the 60%.
Because the likelihood of finding 2 part-time people, probably not the greatest, honestly, in the grand scheme of things. And trying to keep 2 part-time people,
I mean, that's been our problem now, is keeping them, he's only had Megan for 2 years.
because I was in healthcare for 13 years and trying to find part-time people to slot in some of these positions, and people that actually want to show up to work, probably not the greatest thing either. I'm trying to keep people who want to stay for hopefully a couple of years.
Yeah.
If not longer, is probably the grandest thing, because then you constantly got to retrain people over and over again, and then all the money you're putting in that anyhow, you're wasting it long-term. That's just my opinion.
Agreed.
We can sit here and save $5,000 if you want.
I'd like to.
Long-term,
I wouldn't mind saving $5,000.
right, but long-term, you're gonna spend more of that anyhow by training multiple people in that same position. Say if in a 5-year pattern, you could be training 5, 6 people, and you're starting over every time. And by the time they get knowledgeable about the position, they're gone. Then you gotta start over again. And we're talking about a limited position the way it is. But I'm all about trying to be cost valued as well, but we also have to put the investment of time in people and treating them that they want to stay as well.
Can this be held over 1 month? There's no urgency that it has
Right,
to be.
with the time.
I think it would be okay. I know EJ just wants to get it done, so we can get it, but
And then maybe you could do some of the talking with PJ
Yeah.
about
certainly.
maybe other options, and we'll go with that. And just defer this
That's
to
easy,
August.
possible. Sure.
Is that consensus?
Yes.
Let's do that.
I think that's all I had on the agenda. Yep.
Going back, Dave, do you want to be considered here? No?
You're considered not.
Not here?
Judges in theory.
All right.
Don't go back here.
Sheriff's Office.
You wanna go back to John, so you jumped back?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yes, I returned because Carrie's on vacation
Oh.
on Tuesday. So, but I'm assured that apparently she's the one who can give me those numbers on Tuesday. So the increase, what I'm really looking for is the amount that the pay will increase. My part-time position already has benefits that way, so it wouldn't, I don't, but I'll ask her those questions as far as the increase of pay, cost, and the benefits, if there's any increase in benefits. And then, how would I go about getting everybody's emails? Do we have that? Okay, awesome. So I'll do a group email on Tuesday and get you that information.
And this was for January anyway,
Correct.
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Sure. She needs a second.
All right.
All right, I have several items in front of you here this morning. The first one is on here simply because last year the county implemented an ordinance for any special events. The sheriff's office provides security to. The fair falls into that category. But the JPP needs to review those before we enter into those agreements. I have in the packet for you the agreement that we have proposed for next year. Hasn't changed at all from last year. The one thing that we want to consider, and I'm throwing it out to you here today, but I'm not necessarily recommending that you do anything, is the fact that our wages have gone up. And the contract that was based on average wage for deputies a couple of years ago, and wages certainly have increased through the years due to the union contracts. And so my recommendation to you would be to approve the contract for 2022 as is, and get that one taken care of. And then if you want to keep those wages where they're at $30 an hour, for next year, you certainly could, but I would recommend considering that and having that conversation probably earlier than next spring. We could probably do that this fall even, have that conversation about next year if you wanted to do that. Certainly, if you wanted to make a recommendation for this year, you could do that, but I think we're short notice here coming up next month. But wanted to bring that to you so that you can review it. Basically, it's going to be just the same thing as last year, and we'll continue. The wording in the contract is worded so that it does basically renew. We don't need to renew this contract, it just renews every year, and there's an out clause, so to speak. So I wanted to bring that to you for your approval for this year once again. And then if you wanted to have discussions about wages for next year, you can certainly do that.
Sheriff, what would the rates be for next year? I mean, what increase are we discussing?
We would have to take a look at what the contract is going to be for next year, and then what we've always done is an average rate, because we're not sure who's going to be assigned.
Sure.
So we use the average deputy wage for reimbursement. I know there is desire by the county to also provide some service out there, because the fair is a service to the county as well. So there's that consideration there too when you're doing wages with this particular contract. So I'm not necessarily advocating for a wage increase, but that's for you to make a determination. But it's most likely going to go up a couple dollars if we went for when we do our increases. We had a 3.5% increase for our patrol wages this year, and as I think it's 3 for next year. 3.75 for next year. So those wages that the HR committee agreed to have gone up. So those are things to consider.
Would you be bringing back next year's thing?
And I'd like a recommendation from you. Is that something you want to look at for the wages? Is it something you want to keep the same because it is a service to the county, and just bring it back next spring? So I'm looking for what your pleasure is, really, because that's a decision for you guys to make. I can provide some recommendations to you, and I can do that, but really, you guys need to approve that before
just stick it back in there. Couple salaries.
I think the board members get paid, but it's not.
Okay.
All right, I think it's great.
Yeah.
$5,000 somewhere in there.
Yeah, pretty minimal for a month. Or-
Then, all right.
So basically
But
what
I've heard other things, that's why I was.
In my
curious.
opinion.
That's why, oh, they got millions of dollars. Yeah, they got millions of dollars. Sitting on the side, we're always wasting all of our money, and we're doing all this other stuff for them, so I just want to
Bill Gates.
try and learn some of that before I make decisions.
And I can give you a history on this. When we started, when I became sheriff, we changed the structure of the security out there a little bit because it was always paid cash to our deputies. They weren't on duty. If they got hurt or were involved in something, they wouldn't get unemployment and compensation through the county. It would go through the fair board, which wasn't a good position for our employees. So that's why we put this agreement in place. And they pay the county now rather than direct cut a check to the employees, which wasn't putting our employees in a great place. That's why we came up with this contract, and I think we've got a very good thing going right now, and I certainly don't want to upset the apple cart there. I think we do provide a service, and it is good for the county. So just looking for, certainly I would like to have an approval of this one for this year from you today, but if you'd like to move forward with some changes, just let me know what you'd like to see.
It's not any different than, this one's been approved already,
Yeah.
for last year, but I read it over, and hope, everybody else had a chance, but, so what's your pleasure?
I'd make a motion that we go ahead with it.
Second.
Okay, and that would be leaving just as is this one.
Right, for this year, yeah.
Any other discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered.
Would you like me to bring anything back to you on this for next year, or what is your pleasure?
Perhaps you put it on your calendar there, that way it'll come back and somebody will remember it.
But what I'm getting at is regarding, are you looking for, potentially looking at the wages for next year? Just so I have an understanding of what you'd like to see, I want to bring something back that you didn't want.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
Okay, all right, we'll do that.
Make sure they're not.
We'll do it sooner than spring, then we'll
That's
try to
right,
get that.
you're gonna come in at, if you have 7% increase in the last 2 years on your salaries, yeah, you're gonna be in that $2.
Yeah. And we'll,
3 is best, but $2.
and I don't want to surprise, I would rather do it sooner than later, rather than surprise the fair board next July and say, oh, we got a big increase, and they weren't planning on that. I'd like them to be able to plan. So we'll try to get that done relatively soon. Okay.
Dave, you got a comment?
Yeah, when we did the respill contract, you had a patrol deputy at $103,000 for an annual cost based on 20 hours, so that's around $50 an hour. So charging the fair $30 an hour doesn't even cover the cost of that person being out there, and you're paying overtime to the guy, it gets even worse.
And that was, reskill contract was based off of the productive rate. We didn't use the productive rate on this contract. This was just straight wages when we did this contract.
I think it would be wise to use the productive rate and then only charge the regular rate, but then you have an idea of what benefits you're giving to the fair. It puts a number on it, so you have an idea.
When you say productive rate, you're talking pennies with it?
Pennies and everything.
Correct.
Yeah,
Even
not just
though-
hourly.
Yeah, okay, that would be worth
It just tells, it tells everybody, the fair and us,
Yeah, we would charge you this much.
what the
but we're gonna
subsidy
give you
really
rate.
is to the fair.
All right, so,
Provide that.
yeah, bring that back.
Thank you for the guidance on what you're looking for.
Thanks, Dave. All right, one down.
We just moved on the list here. The next one, actually, the next two go together. You've got option A and option B, and this is the third time I brought this in front of you, so you have plenty of time to really consider this. Option A, abolish one position of detective and create one position of sergeant. Now, the fiscal impact in the bottom of the resolution doesn't show there's a fiscal impact because it's part of the 2023 budget that this would be built in for. The fiscal impact for abolishing one position of detective and creating one position of sergeant, a reminder, I told you last month, would be about $1,500. The second option there, not abolishing the position of detective, but just creating a position of sergeant, that's about $107,000 increase for the budget. Certainly, again, going back, the matrix report, and it does, if you look at the matrix report, it only says that in the organizational structure, the drug task force sergeant says it only has one deputy and a half deputy under it. That actuality, it's two deputies and a half-time deputy underneath it. I know that there have been some comments out there that drug task force sergeant should take on some of these responsibilities. But I'll tell you that just is not feasible to reduce that workload at all. The drug task force is responsible for 2.5 deputies, in addition to managing all of the other people in the drug task force from all of the other agencies. So there is a huge pool of people there that person is still managing. The matrix report indicates or recommends having that drug task force sergeant and also having a detective sergeant. And the recommendation there is not to eliminate a detective, but to simply add a sergeant. So if you were going to go with the recommendations from Matrix as they have it written, you would choose option B, which would be to simply add the position of sergeant. However, we all understand that the budget this year is going to be very difficult. We've got some significant challenges there, and that $1,500 would certainly be a lot easier to manage in the budget than a full-time position. But again, that is for you and the board to decide if you want to make that a priority or not, so that we can do some of the other investigations that we just simply can't do. This change would be more of a shift of responsibility there. They would still have protective responsibilities as a sergeant, but it would create that span of control that is needed for proper management of the office. There would still be a lot of work there for those individuals that are still there. So you have those two options there before you to decide what would you like to bring forward, if anything, to the board this month.
In December 9, 2019, I was trying to find my notes from back when that all came around, the executive, or they had a special committee to do their report. There was approval in the end of 2019 to do one detective, or not make that one a sergeant. And we did that?
That was in the drug unit.
Yeah.
So that was in a different, you gotta remember there's two different charts there. This sergeant is for the detective bureau, basically. That detective was in the drug unit.
Okay.
That detective was transitioned from a detective to a sergeant. At the time, there was no fiscal impact to do that.
Yeah.
So that's that second sergeant I'm talking about. So yes, that did occur, but it's really a different unit of people altogether.
All right. So we're looking at a sergeant within the patrol now, or
No.
just the detectives?
No, just the detectives. Does not include the drug task force. They're two different units. They don't
Yeah.
work, they work together, but they don't work together, if that makes sense. The detectives are taking on general case assignments, homicide, burglary, robbery, all of those things. The drug unit is focusing on drug cases. There's a lot of overlap there.
Yeah, but
there's two
there is a
different-
sergeant in the drug task.
Yes, yes.
But it seems from what I can recall here, and also, they work together, but they're two separate shops.
Yeah.
The drug guys are doing their gig, and detectives are doing but they're doing investigations. So they are, even though they're across the hall from each other here, they're two separate shops.
They're actually not even across the hall. They're on different floors.
Yeah, that's true, you're right. Sorry.
That's okay. And as a reminder, the lieutenant of detectives has a huge caseload, or not caseload, but level of responsibility in addition to supervising both of these units. He also has background investigators that he's responsible for, the fleet, our training unit, huge responsibilities there, that some of those responsibilities would be transferred over to that sergeant to manage. Really, that first line supervisor, evaluation of those types of things.
So the cost comparison, again, you gave us last year, or last month, was,
$1,500 to convert to a sergeant. And recall that this year the association separated detectives and sergeants so that we can have this structure in place. So $1,500 to convert one to a sergeant, $107,000 to just add a position and to add a position of sergeant.
All right, I was asking for either a helper and our sergeant
Or
at the full rate,
And you have to,
or
yeah.
just making one from a detective to a sergeant, which is 1,500.
Now, if we said, okay, we're gonna do the $1,500 solution today, how far out would you be from adding that additional staff person?
Well, I think that's up to this committee, if we bring that back again next year and evaluate if we're able to manage that next year, or if it's in 2 years. I think probably something, it's a recommendation from the $75,000 study that was done, that we do that. So I think that's really up to this committee here as far as when do you want to bring that forward again, and we can certainly revisit it.
I mean, I think that moving the detective lieutenant, I mean, obviously is a senior management role. And again, past practice would tell me that if you have that first line manager, things like strategic planning, long range planning, all those things get much more attention than when that senior management is in the trenches doing that first line supervisor, because he gets caught in the weeds with all the other problems. He or she gets caught in the weeds. So I think there's real value in command staff being command staff and not first line supervisors. But again, that's just my thoughts. I guess the question is, where do we think that when we take that, when this comes to the board, which one's gonna apply? What's gonna be the consensus of the group?
That'd be,
I'm getting that feeling too, that's what I'm just saying.
because
It's
if
gonna
we're
be
leveling over 15,000 on another one, how are you gonna pass
107,000.
107,000?
And
In
it's-
all honesty.
And is that, so if the caseload continually increases, which we all know it will, we come back and we detect it later. And now that sergeant's been covered, the detective, their rights would be a little less than that sergeant.
Would be about 105,000. 105,500.
Oh,
Fifteen
half
hundred,
you guys
1,500
got out
less.
here,
Yeah.
holy cow.
Keep in mind, we don't actually have the wage worksheet done yet for next year.
Sure.
So, we're going on guesstimates as far as what that is, in our wage worksheet from this year, so.
Sure, yeah, you're using the current number.
Yep, sure.
Sure. And I think that's for me, the idea is if we're gonna get something, if we're gonna send something up, if we're gonna send something up that we know it's just gonna fail, then
Right.
that doesn't make any sense. But I'm gonna look to my seniors for advice.
That's not me.
And I don't mean seniors in age, I just mean seniors on board.
And they all look at me and devil.
Yeah, I think A would be the winner.
Because a huge increase, how are you gonna fit that in, honestly?
Right.
With everything that's gonna be coming down the pipe next year or a couple of years. It's, how are you gonna sell that, and what else you're gonna cut from the rest of the county to fit that in?
Right, where would that end?
Well, you'd be able to use numbers, cases and the caseload or whatever, to do some of that, but it's gonna cost, there is gonna be discussion on it, I'm sure.
Sure. And, I mean, if the detective, I know last meeting we discussed that there's a lot of things that affect the county, revenue that can be brought in from the county that the detectives don't have the time to delve into, because they're just not a priority.
Economic support.
Exactly, so those are things that can, if it's brought together right,
Yeah.
it might be a much better selling point, to say, these are things that are coming in.
There's a lot of fraud going on there that we're not able to investigate. We just have time to do that. Yeah, it's a really good point.
Well, does somebody have a motion on A or B? We'll do both of them at once.
I'll motion on A.
A,
Second.
Motion and a second that we do A and consider A. Any other discussion? Okay, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And that will take care of C.
You wanna do the resolution right away, or?
Yeah.
Wanna wait till the end?
We got it here. This is the C, right?
Follow one position to be effective and create one position of service. This is the one you want to sign.
And that's the one.
Create one position of service. We'll take that one. Last resolution I have for you, again, this one is cleanup. This is taking a position from the miscellaneous scale, it's a part-time clerical position, reclassifying it as a part-time administrative support specialist, which actually has a job description. Well, they both have job descriptions, but it's on the payment, compensation plan. Their wages right now are currently exactly the same. The duties will not be changing. It was just when they created this part-time position, when they brought it in, they created a separate job description. And under what the HR committee has recommended in recent months is when you have a part-time position, you just use the full-time job description and you place them on step one, and they stay at step one on that position. So it really is cleanup. There is no fiscal impact on this at all. It's just changing the job description. So you have to eliminate one and create the other one so that you can do that cleanup. So that's really all this is.
Any questions?
This is, we discussed this last time.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Motion approved. The motion for this resolution.
Motion,
I'll second.
motion and a second. Any other spots? Otherwise, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered.
Contract update, nothing, things are going really well in Reesville. Really no update as far as the contract at all, it's continuing as.
If I can ask, when we do these contracts, whether it be for you guys or anything that we generate revenue, does that come back to the county general fund, or does that go back to the department?
Budgeted, it's put into our budget as a revenue. So
But
that's
so that money stays in the sheriff's office, it doesn't go to general fund?
correct.
Well, I'll ask Dave later on. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's offsetting the wages. The purpose for it is just offsetting
All
our
right, so
costs.
we do offset the cost, so your budget is directly related to your revenue coming in.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. There is no benefit.
You're not adding, we're not giving you the same amount of money every year, and your revenue is increasing by your contracts, then that's sliding forward.
Whatever's in the contract is directly related to the costs.
Okay. Thank you. That's up.
The last item I have is the understanding of Staffing-Recruitment-Retention going really, really well. We have one open position in patrol. The only reason we have an open position in patrol, I had it filled, and then the guy didn't call us back and never took the job. So we had to open up a new process, and we have two fantastic candidates that we have in background right now for that position. and just waiting for the background to come back. But we found ourselves, when we were doing the interview for this, we found ourselves in a position where we get to choose, and you don't get to do that really much anywhere for employment right now. We got to choose from really good candidates, and we couldn't take them both. We didn't have enough positions, so that's what we're doing in the background, and then once we get those back, we're gonna make a final decision on which one we're gonna take there, and so that's really, really good. In the jail, we have 4 vacancies as of right now. We have some people that just graduated from the academy. Interesting side note that I learned this week on that is 6 people failed out of the corrections academy up in Green Bay that they had to go to. And in the last day of the academy.
Wow.
Our staff have never done that. Our standard quality has not reduced as we've been hiring, and we've never had that issue. But yeah, they had 6 people that didn't graduate with their class. And so 4 vacancies as of today. We have several in background. We have several applications. And the jail administrator just gave me, it wasn't quite 1 position with 2 applicants that we were, I mean, they said we're really in a good spot right now. We're hoping that we had 2, was it 1 or 2 more people? 1 for sure that we thought this was gonna be a really good candidate. We did a psychological thing together. So, we've got those things that pop up now and again, but we're in a really good spot. As a result of this, again, in 10 days, we're opening up HPOD again, and we've already got people coming in to, inmates coming in to start offsetting those costs again. That's not a full opening. We still got some people in training, but September 1st, I think it was, that we were looking at a full opening, tentative full opening, and that's looking pretty firm. So it's, but we plan to be at our budget. Well, depending on how many inmates we get in, we are anticipating that we will be at or above our budgeted amount of contract beds shortly after reopening partially.
Did they remodel the cells?
They painted, they're working on sprinkler head replacements and things like that, so that's all while it was closed down to the recruitment. Yep. So staffing is going really, really well. Other than those 2 positions, all of our other full-time positions are full. We've got some luck lately with transport off, part-time transport. Court security is still a little bit of that's a pool part-time position in court security. Not a lot of the retirees want to work those part-time gigs anymore, but we did have a retirement here last week that individual was strongly considering coming and working in court security, which is fantastic. So things are just in the recruitment and retention world. Between now and 9 months ago, we are in a really good spot, and not much in plan of retirement coming in.
Anything else? All right, thank you. So,
I'll second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.